Before we ride into this tale, tell me, where in this wide, wild world are you listening from? Ever crossed paths with someone who sparked a fire in you at first glance? Drop your city or country in the comments below. These Western stories travel far, like dust on a desert wind. Under a sky stitched with stars, in a lonesome corner of Arizona territory, Jonah Reed hammered iron in his forge. The air smelled of coal and sorrow, the glow of embers painting his bearded face. 3 years had passed since Abigail, his wife, was taken in a robbery, her laughter stolen by a bullet. Now, Jonah's world was the clang of steel, the weight of memory heavy as the anvil before him. The night was quiet, save for the wind's low moan. Then a horse whinnied, sharp and startled, from the corral. Jonah froze, hammer midair. A shadow moved beyond the fence, a figure, quick and lithe, untying a mare. He dropped the hammer, grabbed a rope, and ran into the dark. The thief was fast, but Jonah was faster. He tackled her to the ground, dust rising like a ghost. She fought, all elbows and curses, but he pinned her, tying her wrists with the rope. Under the moonlight, he saw her face, sharp cheekbones, eyes like burning sage, a braid spilling from a hat. Tessa Grey, the horse thief. Jonah, who are you to steal what's mine? Tessa, you've got nothing but ashes and ghosts, blacksmith. Jonah hauled her to the forge, tying her to a post by the anvil. The firelight danced on her Apache beaded necklace, glinting like a challenge. Tessa's voice was a blade, cutting through his silence, but her eyes lingered too long on his. Anger sparked between them, hot as the coals, yet something else flickered, something neither would name. Jonah, give me one reason not to drag you to the sheriff. Tessa, do it. You'll learn nothing, and I'll be gone by dawn. Jonah's jaw tightened. Her defiance stirred a fire he'd thought long dead. The night stretched taut, like a rope ready to snap. And in that forge, under the desert stars, 2 souls stood on the edge of something dangerous, something neither could yet see. The forge glowed like a heart pulsing in the desert night, its heat wrapping Jonah Reed and Tessa Grey in a cocoon of fire and shadow. Tessa sat bound to the post, her wrists chafing against the rope, but her eyes burned brighter than the coals. Jonah paced, his boots scuffing the dirt floor, each step a question he didn't know how to ask. The air was thick with the scent of iron and defiance, and something unspoken hung between them, sharp as a blade. Jonah, why horses? Why mine? Speak plain, or I'll haul you to the sheriff by sunrise. Tessa, go ahead, blacksmith. You'll find no answers in a jail cell. Those horses don't belong to you, or this town. Her voice was a whip, cracking through his resolve. Jonah stopped, leaning close enough to see the dust smudged on her cheek, the faint scar above her brow. Her Apache beaded necklace caught the firelight, its colors dancing like a story he couldn't read. He wanted to hate her, this thief who'd stirred his quiet world, but her gaze held him, steady and unyielding, like a star that refused to fade. Jonah, you talk big for someone tied to a post. Give me a name, a reason, something. Tessa, you're not the only one who's lost something, Jonah Reed. I've been running longer than you've been hiding. The words hit like a hammer on hot iron. Jonah's jaw tightened, memories of Abigail flooding back. Her laugh, her hand on his, gone in a flash of gunfire 3 years ago. He turned away, grabbing a poker to stoke the fire, but Tessa's voice followed. Softer now, cutting deeper. Tessa, you're not dead, you know, even if you act like it. Abigail wouldn't want this. You buried in ash. Jonah, snapping, don't you dare say her name. You know nothing about her. Tessa's lips curved, not quite a smile, but close enough to spark something dangerous in Jonah's chest. She leaned forward, the rope creaking, her breath warm in the cool night air. Tessa, I know you're stuck, blacksmith, trapped in this forge like it's a grave. Let me go, and maybe I'll show you why I take what I do. Jonah tossed the poker aside, its clang echoing like a warning. He stepped closer, their faces inches apart, his anger warring with a pull he couldn't name. Her eyes searched his, bold yet guarded, as if she saw the man he'd been before grief carved him hollow. Jonah, One chance. Tell me what you're after, or I swear you'll see that sheriff. Tessa, untie me, and I'll give you more than words. The forge crackled, the night held its breath, and Jonah stood on the edge of a choice. Trust the thief or chain his heart tighter. The forge's glow dimmed, but the air between Jonah Reed and Tessa Grey burned hotter than ever. Tessa's wrists strained against the rope, her eyes locked on Jonah's, daring him to listen. The desert night pressed close, stars watching like silent judges. Jonah's heart thundered, torn between rage and the strange pull of her voice, sharp yet threaded with truth. He leaned in, the scent of sage on her skin mixing with the forge's coal. Jonah, you've got one breath to tell me why you're here, thief. No more games. Tessa, it's not theft, it's a promise. To Abigail, your Abigail. Jonah froze, her name a blade through his chest. Memories of Abigail, her soft hands, her laugh, flooded back, raw as the day she died. He stepped back, breath ragged, the poker in his hand trembling. Jonah, don't lie to me. You never knew her. Tessa, I knew her better than you think. She was my friend, Jonah. Before the robbery, before they took her. She worked with me, smuggling horses back to the Apache. The colonizers stole their herd, their lifeblood. Abigail swore to help, and I swore to finish it. Her words were a spark in dry grass. Jonah's mind reeled, picturing Abigail slipping out at night, her secret kept even from him. The Apache necklace on Tessa's throat gleamed, identical to one he'd buried in a drawer, its beads a map to a truth he'd never seen. Jonah, why didn't she tell me? Why keep it hidden? Tessa, she wanted to protect you. Said you'd try to stop her, or worse, join her and get killed. Jonah's knees buckled, the weight of 3 years' grief shifting. Tessa's voice softened, her defiance giving way to something raw. Tessa, I'm not your enemy, Jonah. I'm keeping her promise. Those horses belong to the Apache, not the men who fenced them in. Untie me, and I'll show you. He stared at her, the thief who'd torn open his past. Her eyes held no deceit, only fire and loss that mirrored his own. The rope seemed to burn his hands as he reached for it, hesitating. Could he trust her? Could he trust Abigail's memory and a stranger's words? Jonah, if you're lying, I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth. Tessa, smiling faintly, then you'd better keep up, blacksmith. Jonah's knife sliced through the rope, freeing her wrists. Tessa rubbed them, standing tall, her braid swinging like a pendulum. The forge flickered, casting their shadows as one on the wall. Something shifted in Jonah's chest, not just anger, not just grief, but a spark of purpose, kindled by a woman who carried his wife's promise under a desert sky. Dawn broke over the Arizona plains, painting the sky with streaks of fire. Jonah Reed and Tessa Grey worked side by side in the forge, their hands brushing as they repaired saddles for the stolen horses. The air was thick with leather and iron, but thinner now with trust, fragile as a spider's web. Tessa's braid swayed as she tightened a strap, her Apache necklace catching the first light. Jonah watched her, his heart a tangle of grief and something new, something alive. Jonah, you're sure about this, taking those horses to the Apache? Tessa, sure as the sun rises. They're waiting in a valley, hidden from men like the ones who killed Abigail. Her voice carried a weight that matched his own. Jonah hammered a buckle, each strike echoing his doubt. He'd lost Abigail to men who wanted her silence. Could he risk losing more? Tessa, I was there, you know, the night she died. Tried to stop it. Couldn't. Jonah, quietly, I should have been there. Should have saved her. Tessa's hand grazed his, her touch a spark that stilled his hammer. Her eyes, green as sage, held his, soft but fierce. Tessa, you're here now. That's what matters. Abigail would have wanted this. Jonah nodded, swallowing hard. They planned their route, a hidden trail through a canyon, far from the town's prying eyes. Tessa spoke of the Apache, of their songs for horses, of a life tied to the land. Jonah shared fragments of his own. Nights with Abigail, her laughter like a bell. Their words wove a thread between them, tentative, warm, but trouble stirred. Dust rose on the horizon, hoofbeats rumbling like a storm. Colonos, 3 men, rifles slung low, rode toward the forge. They were the ones who'd stolen the Apache horses, their greed etched in hard faces. Tessa's jaw tightened, her hand slipping to a knife hidden in her boot. Tessa, they've tracked me. They know I've been taking back what's theirs. Jonah. Then we move tonight. No waiting. He grabbed his rifle, the metal cold against his palm. Tessa's fingers brushed his again, this time lingering, her touch saying what words couldn't. Tessa. You don't have to do this, Jonah. It's my fight. Jonah. It's hers too. And now it's mine. They saddled the horses, their movements swift, shadows merging in the forge's dying light. The Colonos' shouts grew louder, their torches flickering like wolves' eyes. Jonah and Tessa mounted up, the horses snorting, ready to run. The canyon trail awaited, narrow and treacherous, but so did something else, a bond forged in fire, stronger than the ropes that once bound them. As they spurred their mounts, the desert wind carried a promise, whispered between a blacksmith and a thief. Hooves thundered through the canyon, kicking up dust that swirled like spirits in the dusk. Jonah Reed and Tessa Grey rode hard, 6 Apache horses trailing behind, their manes streaming like banners. The valley was a maze of red rock and shadow, its walls echoing with the Colonos' pursuit. Tessa led, her braid whipping, her eyes sharp as she navigated the narrow trail. Jonah gripped his rifle, his heart pounding, not just from the chase but from her nearness, her courage a flame he couldn't look away from. Tessa. Shouting. Stay close, blacksmith, they're gaining. Jonah. I'm right here. Keep riding. The Colonos' shouts cut through the wind, their bullets pinging off the rocks. Jonah fired back, a warning shot that echoed like thunder. Tessa veered left, guiding the horses down a hidden path she knew by heart. Her voice carried over the chaos, steady as a drum. Tessa. The Apache are close. They'll meet us at the riverbed. Jonah's arm burned, sweat stinging his eyes, but he followed her, trusting the thief who'd upended his world. The canyon opened to a dry riverbed, where shadows moved, Apache riders, silent as ghosts, their faces painted with earth and resolve. An elder stepped forward, his eyes locking on Tessa's necklace. He raised a hand, and the air filled with a chant, low and resonant, a blessing for the horses. The Colonos burst into the clearing, rifles raised, but the chant stopped them cold. The elder's voice rose, calling to the spirits of the land. The horses snorted, rearing as if answering. The Colonos hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes. Tessa seized the moment, spurring her mare forward, her knife flashing as she cut a rope from their leader's saddle. Tessa, these horses are home. You've got no claim here. Jonah aimed his rifle, standing beside her, his voice steady. Jonah, ride out, or you'll answer to more than us. The Colonos faltered, the chant and the Apache riders overwhelming them. They turned, fleeing into the dusk, their curses swallowed by the wind. The elder approached Tessa, touching her necklace with reverence. Elder, you kept your vow. The horses breathed free again. Tessa nodded, her eyes meeting Jonah's. The chant faded, leaving only the rustle of the horses and the heartbeat of the valley. Jonah lowered his rifle, his chest tight with something beyond relief. Pride, for her, for them. Tessa's hand brushed his, a silent vow of her own. The stars above burned brighter, as if the sky itself bore witness to the fire kindled between a blacksmith and a thief, a fire that no desert wind could extinguish. The valley lay quiet under a blanket of stars, the riverbed glowing with the Apache's firelight. Jonah Reed stood beside Tessa Grey, the freed horses grazing nearby, their breaths soft as prayers. The elder led a ritual, his chant weaving through the night, blessing the horses with sage and song. Tessa's necklace gleamed, its beads a bridge between her and the tribe. Jonah watched, his heart no longer a forge of grief, but a spark of something new, hope, kindled by her side. Tessa, they're home now. Abigail would be proud. Jonah, softly, you're the one who made it happen. Tessa turned, her eyes catching his, green as the sage that grew wild in the desert. Jonah reached into his pocket, pulling out a small bundle, a necklace identical to hers, Abigail's last gift. He pressed it into Tessa's hand, his fingers lingering on hers. Jonah, she'd want you to have it, to keep you safe. Tessa's breath hitched, her fingers curling around the beads. She stepped closer, the space between them shrinking to nothing. Tessa, you gave me a home, Jonah, not just a forge, a purpose. Jonah, smiling. And you gave me a reason to light the fire again. The elder's chant rose, a melody of earth and sky sealing the moment. The Apache offered Jonah and Tessa a place in their valley, but Tessa shook her head, her gaze fixed on Jonah. They rode back to the forge at dawn, the horses trailing behind. The old building, once a tomb of memories, became a sanctuary. Jonah hammered iron, Tessa tended the horses, and together they built a refuge for the Apache, a place where hooves and hearts could run free. The town whispered of the blacksmith and the thief, their story a spark in the desert's quiet. Jonah no longer worked alone, his hammer striking in rhythm with Tessa's laughter. The forge glowed brighter, its warmth spilling into the nights they spent under Guan's system, under the stars, talking of dreams and promises. And if you've ever looked at a sky and felt a heart mend, you know why Jonah never let Tessa go. Love is rare, a home rarer still. When the two meet under a desert sky, the wise hold tight with both hands. So tell me, what promise have you kept against all odds? Drop your story in the comments and subscribe for more tales of the West.